Hello everybody, and welcome to Bull Technology. When I think of the perfect city builder, Cities Skylines comes pretty darn close. Yes, it has some issues, and I documented them thoroughly several years ago, but no other game allowed me to do more with my urban planning itch than the original Cities Skylines. But Cities Skylines 2, Skyline's successor, was not the sequel many of us had hoped for at launch, with its many game-breaking bugs, performance issues, and missing features. So 1 year after its initial announcement, and 8 months since the game went on sale, I wanted to see if Cities Skylines 2 is a better game today, and what's changed. Let's get started. So let's begin with some backstory. Cities Skylines was developed by Colossal Order and published by Paradox Interactive in March of 2015. Skylines was a spiritual successor to the SimCity city building franchise and was praised for its scope and creativity. Colossal Order would continue to update and develop the game until 2023, adding all manner of features and DLC. And in my opinion, CS1 was an amazing game, and as it sits now, I have over 420 hours logged on Steam. But in March of 2023, Colossal Order announced the much-anticipated sequel to Cities Skylines, dubbed Cities Skylines 2, which on launch wasn't great. So what we'll do is examine the issues with CS2 at launch and see if it's gotten any better since release. I've boiled the three main issues with Cities Skylines 2 being bugginess and instability, performance and simulation issues, and a lack of features, especially features that were in Cities Skylines 1. So let's begin with perhaps the biggest issue with Cities Skylines when it initially launched, and that is bugginess. Now, there have been many patches and updates to the game, and in some respects things have gotten a little bit better, but if you ask me, the pace of improvement hasn't been nearly fast enough, and there are far too many issues with the game still. Small bugs are absolutely everywhere. Road intersections create these garbled messes sometimes, vehicles and citizens freak out randomly, the city services break for no apparent reason, and the game randomly crashes all too often, and these are just the small things. What's worse are the game-breaking bugs, and these are much more serious. For example, in the latest patch, all of my cities are completely broken due to a homeless population bug that's been pretty well documented. Essentially, you can no longer place parks in your city, or else perfectly normal, working Sims will abandon their homes and move into parks, causing your population to essentially decline indefinitely. Well, just demolish the parks, you say, but city happiness will permanently suffer due to this, and you know what? I want to use parks. Parks are in the game, and they are a key feature. Why does simply placing them break your city? I mean, it's just frustrating. Didn't think it could get any worse? Well, prepare to be amazed. By far my biggest issue with the game is the issue regarding simulation speed absolutely breaking down after your city reaches a certain population. Essentially, the speed of the game completely breaks and slows down after a certain time, and this isn't a frame rate issue or a crappy PC issue. For some perspective, my system has a 10th gen Core i5, 16 gigs of RAM, and a RTX 2060 Super, and the game runs at about 30 to 40 frames per second, yet the game's speed is completely broken at about 200,000 people. And this isn't just a me issue. Many people have complained about this issue, and these are people with much faster systems than mine. To illustrate this, just look at the game speed difference between this smaller city and this larger city at max simulation speed. Keep in mind I have the prefer simulation speed over frame rate option selected within the options menu. This broken simulation speed means public transportation, traffic, and normal growth of the city are severely stunted, and this isn't even a big city. I mean, look at how much space I have left on this map. What's the point of these larger map sizes if the game breaks when building bigger? So in summation, the game is still broken, and not in a small way either. It's been 8 full months and plenty of game-breaking bugs still exist. Completely unacceptable, if you ask me. Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about performance. I touched on this a bit earlier, but for some reason, this game still runs like complete trash. And just as a side note, let me just say that the system requirements for Cities Skylines 2 are completely ridiculous. I mean, an RTX 3080 is recommended? What? Literally, the fastest consumer-grade GPU when the game launched was the recommended GPU. Compare this to the last-gen mid-range option as a recommendation for Cities Skylines 1. Absurd recommended specs aside though, the game runs pretty terribly on my PC. As stated before, I have a pretty mid-range PC, and I can run almost any game at a smooth 60 frames per second with some tweaks. Well, not Cities Skylines 2. Even with all of the settings at low and the resolution at 1080p, the game runs at about 25 to 35 frames per second in bigger cities, sometimes higher and sometimes lower, but the game constantly freezes and reaches the teens in the frame rate, and this is just unacceptable. I'm usually not a performance stickler, but this is pretty terrible, and I'm clearly not the only person with these issues. I mean, the game looks great, don't get me wrong, but does it look good enough to justify it running this crappily? If you ask me, no. So, has the performance gotten better since launch? Well, yes, but that's relative. It's still not great, to say the least. Alrighty, so now let's discuss features, and while yes, features have been added in this past year, many features are still missing, especially features that we had in Cities Skylines 1. Perhaps the biggest hole for me are the lack of water detailing touches like quay walls and water placeable parks. Also, where are the canals? They just don't exist yet. But on a more functional note, the city policies are just a complete joke if you ask me. Here are all the policies from Cities Skylines 1 that you could implement on your city, and these are the only policies for Cities Skylines 2. Yeah, not great. Also, the only placeable tourist buildings are these. Yeah. And even though the road tool is better in some ways, in others it's completely lacking. Like, you can't change the tree type on tree-lined roads like you could in Cities Skylines 1, and it's all too easy to mess up zoning grids, which was pretty darn hard to mess up in Cities Skylines 1. And unlike in Cities Skylines 1, most of the info views are completely useless and don't give me the information I actually need. And placeable props aren't in the game either, which makes zero sense because these props naturally spawn in the world anyway, but you can't place them on your own. And like I said, some features have been added that were missing at launch, like new detailing options and the modding system, but many of these features seem half-baked, and hey Paradox, why do I need an account to mod the game? This wasn't a requirement in Cities Skylines 1. Frustrating. So on features, Cities Skylines 2 still has a long way to go. So plainly put, Cities Skylines 2 is still a mess, and I'm sad and conflicted. I love many of the changes to Cities Skylines 2. The larger maps, the gorgeous models and new graphics, apart from the low-density residential buildings, and the many new systems and features. But how can one enjoy and appreciate these new changes when the game has bugs galore, countless performance issues, and many missing features? If the game was fixed and added onto, it would be a terrific game, but improvements need to be made before I can say Cities Skylines 2 is a great game that I'd recommend, because in its current state, it isn't. And the $50 price tag is a bit insulting for what feels like a game still in beta. Skylines 2 is a game that I love, a game that I hate, a game that is broken, a game that is gorgeous, and a game that needs much, much more tinkering before I can recommend it. Be sure to leave a like, a comment, and definitely subscribe. And thank you all for watching.